Welcome to AstriCon. Yay. So this is the opening panel that we normally do. Normally Nenad is actually here, but I don't know, I got voluntold to do this instead, so here I am. But we'll start with some introductions as always. Welcome back to Florida. This is our third consecutive AstriCon actually here as part of IT Expo. It's great to be here. We have Nenad Corbic, CTO of Sangoma. My boss at some level, but no one can truly boss me around. We have Michael White down at the end, VP of OSS Sales. Yay! We have me, myself, and I, Director of Engineering, Asterisk Project Lead. And then we have Chris Maj, Open Source Solutions Advocate, which I must admit is a title that I made up. Because, I mean, we collectively made it up. Context, I don't like the word evangelist, really, so we opted for this.
I concur.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd like to thank all the guests and speakers this year. We have a great lineup of sessions across 2 days this year, so today and tomorrow. So I'll cover general Asterisk and FreePBX updates, some 16 to 17 stuff for FreePBX. AI in VoIP, which is an extremely hot topic right now, AI in general, as well as some great stories around Asterisk and FreePBX. So, Chris, it's time to introduce yourself.
Hey. Good morning, everyone. If you're all here yesterday, you may have seen this slide, so you know what's coming next here. I am the new Open Source Solutions Advocate at Sangoma. I started about 6 months ago. I've been working with Asterisk for over 20 years now, mostly as an independent consulting for small, medium businesses and MSPs. This is my 4th AstriCon, so I was in Phoenix in '09, Denver, where I live, in 2011, and last year here, and got along and met everyone and enjoyed it. And I saw this position open up over the summer and decided to apply. So I had been a Digium certified Asterisk professional since 2011. So that when the show came to Denver, took a practical test, setting up some telephony cards on your own standalone equipment. Interesting, side note that Digium now being part of Sangoma, we are looking to bring that test back and certification back under Sangoma, branding. So that's something to look forward to, a SCAP coming up soon. I've been on the Asterisk forums for a number of years, helping out new users and answering questions and learning a lot all the time. So I've really enjoyed that. It's like almost my daily Sudoku, or I guess now the Wordle. I sort of treat it as is, what I can find there. And recently I've gotten a little bit more active in the FreePBX forums. I'm still kind of a noob there. So if you are on the community forums, feel free to ping me there. Ping with PBX or on GitHub. I have a few patches here and there, some bug reports and fixes. My hobbies, one of the reasons I joined Sangoma has been this big switch to Debian for FreePBX 17, which we'll talk about. Been using Debian for a number of years. I gave a presentation on Cube's operating system yesterday, Zen Hypervisor, so if you want to talk about that, it'd be great too. Have a little bit of Ansible in a presentation tomorrow. No database too much this time, but after the conference, it's been quite busy. You may find me taking some time to a long walk on the beach and maybe catch some fish. So this is, next slide I think is me at my desk. Saw that's on the internet. That is my old machine. I have a newer laptop now. But thanks everybody. Great to be here. So.
Next up, we have masterful Mr. Mike.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. My name is Michael White. I'm the Vice President of Open Source here at Sangoma. I've been with the team since 2020. As part of my role here, I work with partners to help engage them and better help them build their businesses. This is something that I'm quite familiar with, having come from this area myself. I've been working with Asterisk and FreePBX basically since the beginning of each project. In that time, I built a solid business that was eventually acquired by Sangoma. I'm fortunate enough to come and teach others and work with others to do the same thing in their business today. I'm also fortunate enough to get to work with these fine gentlemen here. We collectively, along with a few others, probably guide a lot of the policy and things that happen here at Sangoma. But this is, dream come true for me from a career perspective, as ultimately, as a guy who was a user from the community, sitting up here today with a seat at the head of the table, and I'm quite thankful to these fine gentlemen for that.
And we're extremely happy that you're part of the team.
Thank you, sir.
Nenad and I don't have slides, but
Just say if you would. So I'm Nenad Corbic. I'm the CTO of Sangoma. And as Mike said, we all work collaboratively to improve FreePBX, to grow open source, to grow Asterisk within Sangoma and abroad, like with all of you. So I really appreciate you being here, and we're really excited to host AstriCon again. This is our chance to kind of show, talk to the community and talk to, show what we've done throughout the year, to show the plans coming up, and we're super excited about open source at Sangoma, and we think it's a core part of our offering, core part of our business. We use open source in all of our platforms, and it's a key part of our DNA. So super happy to be here. Thank you.
I'd also throw out that while you can wrangle us here in real life, we are also approachable throughout the year in various ways. Like Chris said, him and I, as well as Nenad and Mike, are on the forums. So if something does come up, feel free to reach out there. We'll make sure that it gets to the right person. And if you're providing feedback and stuff, such as for FreePBX.
Over there. No, it's yeah. Well, we got a lot of fun things to talk about with it, so looking forward to that.
Yeah. So general Asterisk announcements. Asterisk 22 was released on October 16th of last year. It's a long-term supported release, so make plans to move to that eventually over time. We bid farewell to Asterisk 18 from a bug fix supported perspective. It is now security fix only. It'll go completely end of life in October of this year. So if you are on Asterisk 18, please make plans to get to a supported version. And then over the past while, we've done some stir-shaken work. We've done some AI research kind of stuff, which shout out to Mike. Mike, raise your hand. Directly after this presentation, he'll be talking about AI. For those people who were here previously yesterday, the presentation will go into more technical details of things instead of just plain demos. We've also had some quality of life improvements and more. There will be more information on this as this presentation progresses, but as always, I plug every chance I can. Please come to my Asterisk project update at the end of AstriCon tomorrow.
Here's the big news. We will be having an ISO for FreePBX 17. It should be available to download very soon. We have a beta that is getting pummeled by QA, and the issues we're identifying, I think, at this point, are part of other modules, and not the ISO itself, but because we're installing it so many times over and over, some things are kind of percolating the surface more quickly than they might otherwise on a fresh install. So this is big news. I know we did not have an ISO. It's been one of the things that I've been working on closely with a number of engineering teams with Nenad's blessing.
You convinced us, right? we weren't going to have the ISO. That was my thing. I was like, no ISO, right? But I guess there's too many use cases not to have it, right?
We just kept hearing from a lot of users that it was a big jump to Debian, especially Windows MSP users, that this having this installation method that we've had for years with a FreePBX ISO has been a really important part of FreePBX usage. So I know a lot of people were curious. There were some placeholders in pages here and there for when we did put this together. And so you may have seen yesterday in a number of my slides, one of the things that I've been doing is using Cube's operating system to test the ISO over and over locally. So we will have a lot more on this in detail tomorrow afternoon. So I encourage you to come back to the FreePBX talk then. That will go into a little bit more detail about the different versions that we have. So we have a single ISO that has a number of different installation methods. Some are geared a little bit more towards cloud, but primarily we put it together for our own physical hardware as a way to install it more quickly and with less interaction. Still takes a little bit of time downloading a lot of stuff, packages over the internet, Of course, that is going to depend on bandwidth, but otherwise, it's a much smoother process for the install. So that also, we will be not only just open sourcing under a GPL2 license the ISO, but the scripts to build the ISO itself. So that's thanks Nenad for that encouragement as part of Sangoma's open source commitment. That'll be a GPL2 as well. It is. It's an Ansible role. Went from shell script to Ansible once it got a little bit unwieldy. So you'll be able to modify that as you like, fork it, whatnot. It'll be on GitHub. Should have the placeholder up by the end of the conference, but you all get to hear about it first. So if you are interested in a sneak link to the ISO, please hand me your card sometime throughout the day, and I can shoot over an email to a Google Drive with the ISO, and you can take a look at it there. So that's just a little screenshot of what the new bootloader looks like. I was surprised not too many people saw it yesterday. They saw it yesterday, and I didn't get too much. Maybe just thought it was pretty wallpaper. It is pretty wallpaper. But this is going to be a big leap, I think, makes it a lot easier to install. Also, tomorrow I'll be, walking through a little bit of how to set it up on some cloud providers as well that we have. So this should be a much easier option for a lot of folks. So really excited about that. So
just the interest, hands up is installer versus ISO. Is there a preference in this group? Group?
If you prefer an ISO, please raise your hand.
And installer just on a native Debian? Huh? It's half-half.
Great. Good news is the ISO is really just prepping your Debian installation for running the installer. So this just speeds up some of those steps in Debian, gets things kind of, how do you say it, tills the soil, and then put the seeds in with the shell script installer that's been run for a while. So that gives you a little flexibility on, for one nice thing, you'll be able to choose a language when you install Debian, which is kind of limited for a lot of those drop-down cloud providers. So just opening up that a little bit more, also helping with partitions and things like that. So some other ideas that we have that have been incorporated in there are, a lot of fun, I think, to take a look at. So that's tomorrow afternoon, a little bit more detail, but glad there's a...
And I guess if they have an issue with the installer, forums, right? That will be the forums, right?
Yeah. We've got some beta. It's listed as beta, so we'll have that in place for a while. And feel free to give it a whirl and let us know in the forums. Yeah.
Well, just right now, just QAing the damn thing was because you have infinite versions of hardware out there, right? And it's just trying to get all of them. And this is where the work has been really in just infinitely just testing on different hardware and different appliances and.
We've got some, some different, in the menu to focus on some older equipment. So people that do have, maybe a 14, 15, 16 appliance, they want to update, we'll be able to upgrade, not in place, take it back up and then upgrade, but then also our newer hardware that we're putting out, we have it geared towards that as well for internal purposes. So we're supporting a lot of different use cases with this single ISO, similar to what you may have seen or noticed in the FreePBX, the 16, the Sangoma OS 7 installation ISO. So yeah, it's been a bit of work. It's been kind of a bit of a skunkworks project. But things are ready to release. So you'll start seeing that activity in GitHub very soon after the conference. Probably get to it Friday morning. Actually, it's on my to-do list. So. Thanks a lot. So, just a notice on the Debian logo there that, this isn't, it's sort of, we're looking at it as a derivative of Debian, right? This is still definitely Debian, a lot of packages right from Debian, but we do, add in some of our own Asterisk and FreePBX packages as well. So, and there are a couple other moves in open source. As you know, everything went to GitHub recently. PHP version got updated. Security reporting, which Josh has put a lot of effort into company-wide and to improve that process over the past year or so. So there is a dedicated security repository for reporting issues for all single products, really, and as well as specifically FreePBX and Asterisk, where you can work on a patch or a bug report with people privately before it's released. So this really helps out fellow users, not expose them to any issues that could be harming a lot of people. I mean, I know the urge is there to say, I found a bug and it's a security issue and look at this, but we've got a process in place that helps other users. So when you're doing that kind of a thing, it's just very important and want to reiterate that we have steps in place, and when you release it first, it's not just harming, you know, it's harming everyone who uses the system when you go about it that way. So it's just very important for the helping fellow users, which thanks so much for coming to this this conference in person. I mean, these are all the fellow human beings, you know, that are going to benefit from releasing this into the security repository if you think it's a security issue. And so we do have ways to kind of, you know, handle this, discuss it internally amongst engineering, put together a fix with you, give you proper credit, work on bug bounties. This is something that, you know, we certainly want to do and will continue to do and publish. So if you have any questions about that, Josh is a great point person on that, has someone who's really put forward all that company-wide as far as security reporting on any Sangoma product. You're really helping out by contributing to that security repo. So thank you for listening to that PSA on security repo reporting. It's really important, and it's been a lot of changes. So.
Yeah, just from a Sangoma perspective, if you head to sangoma.com/security, that is where you can report security vulnerabilities against any of our products, services, and other things. You just choose what it is, and it'll take you to the correct place, and then it'll go through the security reporting process, and if applicable, bug bounties are also available too for that stuff. So check that out.
And just for a historical, you know, just way back, you know, like what happened was this is all result of, you know, a few years ago we had we were in a flux of switching between Atlassian and GitHub, and you know, the security reporting got stuck in the middle somewhere in some sort of crevasse that people were not able to get to it or did not how it is. So this is all the effort to fix that, right? We get the feedback, we hear you loud and clear, and we intend to fix it. And these are the kind of results of those mistakes or those things that we've done before, right? So trying to do better. Thanks, Josh.
Yay. So generally, how is Asterisk doing? I'd like to give credit to Alvita over there. Hey, for putting together this pretty picture for me. Yay. So from a code perspective, we had 54 individual contributors over the past year or so, over 2,000 commits across Asterisk, and in general, that's up about 25% over the prior year. Downloads are at 1.5 million, but I'm seeing that increase, which I think is a result of people using Asterisk for AI stuff. That's a very hot topic at the moment on the forums. And then from the forum perspective, over the last year, we had 8,800 posts and about 600 new participants, which is up about 10% over the prior year. So up and up and up.
FreePBX is also doing great. You may have noticed a new operating system in FreePBX 17. The switch from a CentOS 7 based system to Debian was well received, but it was a big change in OS, so it's involved a lot of under the hood sort of changes, but the UI looks almost the same. We'll look at some side-by-side shots on that. Just some improvements there. You know, you're going to want to look at the 17 for all your new installs. 15 definitely discouraged. 16 is going to be the last CentOS 7 based system, so that is going to be stable for a while, but it's not getting any more OS level updates. So, you know, it's usually only 2, but because of the circumstances, we've extended that a bit, but we'll talk more about roadmaps and timelines tomorrow afternoon on that. So
I'd also like to throw out, if you are experiencing difficulties moving to 17, please do file issue reports on GitHub so that can be resolved, because as Chris said, CentOS 7 is essentially no more as an OS, so we want people to get onto a supported operating system.
Yep, there's a lot of steps to make that happen underneath. A lot of the engineering work is really focused on that, improvements. I know that we've had a number of bugs and issues just moved to PHP 8, which have been squashed, so we'll look at some of those tomorrow. But as far as forums and participation, it does seem that we've gotten some uptick there, so a lot of new posts, again, new participants. Like to look at the next slide
Just before we go, any 17 users? Is anybody running 17 right now? Okay, thanks.
So, mention of some updated docs there. As far as where to go, we've moved, documentation moved quite a bit too. So, still updating some links on that. I did start in the end of August, beginning of September. So that's sort of the timeline. Just thought this was fun to take a look at. Made some code of conduct updates on the FreePBX forums. We worked on that as a team. And then I don't know, I take some credit here for a little bit of an increase. Looks like around 25%, increase in forum participation and posts. So there's been, a lot of activity and a lot of interest. I think some of that is just a pivot back to seeing, what is, new in FreePBX 17. So it's still, this is a great place. All those folks who did have their hands up with 17, maybe if you are running 16 still or, curious about it, to find, remember who raised their hand just a minute ago and ask them what they've encountered and what the challenges have been. For the most part, like I said, it's a backup of 16 and a restore, but you've got to look at, depending on what modules you're running, things might look a little different. So it's something to take into consideration. But this is, I think, important that, we continue to see growth, in forum participation. So it seems like we're getting an influx of Debian users, especially I've noticed in it's not about the GitHub here, but it seems like our GitHub issues are attracting a number of users who are Debian, been running Debian for a number of years and are posting and submitting bug fixes and patches to the open source side of things in the FreePBX GitHub, which is a huge collection of modules. Each module is in its own individual repository. We do have a centralized issue tracker there to report issues. Separate, those are public versus the security repo is also available through there. So when you do find an issue in a particular module, the suggestion recommendation is to open something in the issue tracker, and then that can be addressed, and the patch would actually go in the module itself, but we centralize the issue tracking and reporting, and that way it gets looked at by engineering and in an orderly manner. So because if we had to look through every single module for issues, it takes a little bit longer than having that central issue tracker. It's a little different than the Asterisk project in that regard, because each module is in its own repo. So definitely github.org/freepbx is a great place to look for the overview and what's pinned and what's not. So the move to GitHub, next slide, thank you. So just as I mentioned, a little bit wider audience. Seems like we're getting some different engagement there than we do on the forums. Definitely a lot more, a little bit more technical, but yet, if you find an issue with some of the open source projects, this is a great place to open the bugs. I'll have these links up soon. You can't click on those in the presentation, unfortunately, at the moment, but those are just showing the number of changes. Some of these are language, updates to, we had Polish was added as a translation last year. FreePBX supports 22 languages now. So that's a few of these changes, but otherwise you look at some of the key modules. I talked a lot about core. Mike White and I talked about core yesterday as far as your inbound, outbound routes, trunking. That's seen a lot of changes. Framework, and then the SNG FreePBX Debian install. That's the shell script used to install 17. So if you do pick a standard Debian ISO in a cloud provider or your own, that's the place you're going to go and run that script. So there's instructions there and a up-to-date README on that. And then, as I mentioned, the ISO kind of does that for you, sort of bootstraps the process, sets up Debian, downloads the script, gets it started, reboots the machine a couple of times to run the script. So that's just a highlight of over the past year, with about a week or so into January. So this GitHub move, we should have more stats and be able to look at things like this a little bit more cleanly in GitHub as we go on. So I mentioned the security reporting, and this also gives some credit to Josh on that, and for integrating the code licensing agreement as well into the steps, because a lot of this stuff, Asterisk had done and the Asterisk engineers had worked on already, moving Asterisk to GitHub, and so FreePBX was able to, it's the nice thing in Sangoma, we're able to reuse a lot of those. Not necessarily the same files, but the same ideas.
Yeah, I'll actually talk a little bit about code licensing, just from a non-project specific perspective. So at Sangoma, we have a single code license agreement, CLA. It applies to all open source at Sangoma. So if you sign it for Asterisk it is automatically signed for FreePBX, as well as any future projects that we may want to release for open source. And it's an instant thing. You just sign it and you are instantly good to go and can contribute to any of our open source projects. So yay. For some context, previously for Asterisk, they were actually manually reviewed by legal, but I worked with legal to get over that hurdle and make it automatic, just to make it easier. So some general new stuff in Asterisk. Last year I spoke about Stir Shaken. That work has now been completed and merged into Asterisk and is actually seeing actual use by companies. We're continuing to make improvements there. Something just merged in yesterday to fix some anonymous calling stuff, which is a whole other topic that George and I kind of went down, which is not really in the spec, but exists in practice. It is very confusing, as is much things Stir Shaken. We've had some PJSIP updates and improvements, as well as some performance improvements. But in general, check out my project update at the end of AstriCon for more and deeper level detail of what actually happened. I always like to throw out, when looking at Asterisk, some old things may be new to you or can be used in ways you may not have thought of. For example, external media in ARI to connect to a speech assistant, which Mike will talk about in the next presentation after this. And then eventually I will get to the point where I remove this from my presentations. However, a reminder, the ChanSIP module was removed in Asterisk 21. It is not there. It is
anybody
suggested.
using it? Question, the ChanSIP, anyone still?
We got one person.
It's okay.
It's okay to admit it.
Just
I don't have to support you, so it's okay.
It was that good. That's what it is. It was that good that, you know, people
I mean, it was that good in that it took a long time for people to move over to PJSIP and see the light, but...
Well, it's certainly a lot better this year. I think we had far more people raising their hand on the ChanSIP side last year. So congratulations, Asterisk community.
Yeah, as the default. As the default, Asterisk 21 currently probably hopefully moving to 22 as the default for FreePBX 17. If you're updating to 17, that's obviously one of the big changes is the move from ChanSIP to ChanPJSIP. Now, there's a lot of tools to do that in FreePBX, so hopefully that is something that you can utilize and do without too much effort. But we've got there's some native Asterisk tools to help with that, as well as writing the GUI for FreePBX. So this is just a little bit of overview, going into more detail again tomorrow on these parts of FreePBX updates. But we did some performance testing and comparison, and found a couple places where we've got some improvements, significant improvements in speed between 16 and 17. So maybe that'll help encourage people. Hopefully the idea of regular operating system security updates is motivating for people to move to 17. That's something you're doing at the OS level with Debian, and you're able to just take advantage of the security repos there. Number of backup and restore improvements that we found a need to fill in a lot of variables. I say that the move to PHP 8 can be a little stricter at times, and so you'll just, a lot of null things that need to be accounted for. And also a big new commercial module that Mike maybe wants to give a plug for.
Commercial guy over here. So we work diligently to integrate DeepGram AI into FreePBX. Currently, it is providing 3 features. The first one is transcription. The second is summary, and we're also providing sentiment analysis. Chris, I think you got some slides coming up on that again in the future.
Yes, yeah, we have a couple that we went through yesterday. If you missed it or want to see those again, and we do have some webinar on about Scribe and looking at the summaries for voicemail. So everyone's familiar with seeing the text, of a voicemail message from your cell carrier. But the nice thing with Scribe for your FreePBX system is that it adds in a summary at the top and also a color coding of whether this was positive, neutral, or negative, green, orange, and red. So kind of looking at a street light version, is this something I want to dig into a little bit more? And we've got a number of additional features coming in the works. So it's something that you can just apply to voicemails, to all your call recordings, or one or the other, or both. And this is going to extend to, we're working on in the roadmap, multi-language support. We've had some success with it, but we're moving along also to features like tagging of keywords. So if a couple words are said, this is something in development, so a little roadmap sneak peek, I guess. You know, if there's a few keywords, I think someone suggested it was, you know, Beetlejuice. I didn't want to continue saying that word, but that would trigger an alert email with the contents of that recording to an administrator. So, you know, if a customer service call is going haywire, you'll be able to get notified before the weekly review of your calls or whatnot. But there's integrated playback tools and things, and a lot of nice GUI features that I think are pretty cutting edge for any phone system that we've seen, you know, across the company. If I can say it, FreePBX is definitely, you know, in a really good spot here with Scribe. So it's worth the $25 a month, but that's, you know.
I want to add one other thing that we are soon to be releasing, I believe in the next week, visual voicemail add-on for Scribe. It's going to bring it directly into our soft phone applications as well as our P-series phones in the future. So same features directly on the endpoint you're using. It's pretty good stuff.
And I think on the back end, we're also throwing webhooks into it, so you can now put all your transcriptions into third-party tools, whether it's CRM or you know, any kind of analytics where you can do further analysis of your conversations. So I think this is where the AI part really comes in, right? Once you have that text, once you have all those transcriptions, now you can do things on it where you can analyze your conversations, you know, and do some big data on it. Yep.
Continuing the topic of AR, or AI rather, some upcoming stuff in Asterisk. Like I said before, I will clarify some of these further at my Asterisk update. But some ARI media improvements for conversational AI, born out of just difficulty and annoyances of implementing that, as well as some ARI scaling improvements of how you can better deploy ARI applications in scalable infrastructure. As always, I like to throw in some quality of life improvements throughout the year just to make everyone's lives easier, as well as some performance improvements, which have started to appear for comment online as well.
I think that was one of our themes, right, Josh? Like scaling Asterisk. It was,
yes.
You know, so we're definitely, you know,
because of, well, I'll just skip to it. This is your slide, but I'm going to do one point. Asterisk is the core of Sangoma's new conversational AI agent infrastructure. And as part of accomplishing that, learning about ways to better scale it, be it Asterisk itself or ARI, is a core thing to making that a reality.
You just took my slide, man.
I did take your slide.
Anyway, so yeah, I think so. Definitely, we talked about Asterisk being the core of what we do at Sangoma, and you know, anything voice related is definitely Asterisk. When we set out to build our own voice AI infrastructure this year, we have our own RAG infrastructure for agentic AIs, and you know, since we are a voice communication company, definitely having our own infrastructure for voice, it was a core and critical to us. So Josh, his team, and I, and like that, we really just worked hard on, you know, iterating and making sure that you know, getting super high quality voice, conversational voice AI working, being able to talk to this thing with the proper latency, with proper, you know, this sounds authentic and real. And so there was a lot of work day in, day out. Mike is probably sick of me, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, this has to be better, you know. So he was, you know, I'm sure he's sick of me right now, like of just QAing this thing. But, you know, throughout that whole process, we learned a lot, and all of that is in Asterisk. The last thing that we want to do is actually get WebSocket directly in Asterisk, so we don't have to, you know, we talk about
yeah, you're skipping ahead to my slide.
All right, see,
I'll give yours a preview though.
So you know, going back to, you know, just Asterisk, but overall, you know, I just want to reiterate how important open source to Sangoma is, and you know, this is core to what we do. We're continuing to push FreePBX and Asterisk together. FreePBX, you know, big thing what Mike does for us in the company. It is a source of revenue for Sangoma, so let's not kid about it. But on the other side, we're trying to balance that. There's a value in free PBX as is, without any commercial, without anything. There's a huge value to it. Something that you can, start a business on, something that you can, help you make your margins. And at the same time, we can jump in and help in, whether it's on trunking, whether it's on commercial modules, whether it's on this AI tools. We're trying to add value on top of the platform versus trying to extract value at the bottom end, right? So, there's always a balance of like, hey, is there enough open source in any new release that we do, right? And we're trying to balance that. And that's a committee decision right here that, like, on a weekly basis, what are we doing for the community? And then how do we ensure that the project is stable, healthy, and we can grow it? I think we have 10 dedicated developers on FreePBX, about four or five on Asterisk, and that's full-time employees that we invest in, and very excited about the project.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I've really enjoyed the past few months helping out, just listening in on the Asterisk developer calls and also the FreePBX developer calls. Like occasionally I ask a dumb question and I get a very intelligent answer, and figure out how much more I do need to learn. But I've enjoyed networking and working on a number of new things that are coming down the pipeline with it. It's so nice to have like this kind of structure where we can quickly keep moving on the AI and be able to iterate in so many different directions now that Asterisk has been great as a media proxy. So this is where really it's excelling in so many ways. There's a lot of issues that Mike Burdine talked about yesterday and will show us again today, and how to handle these media streams. And Asterisk is really good at this kind of stuff. So it's been great for making phone calls for a long time, landlines to the internet, and now to the robots. It's really fun to watch. So I've enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll see a little bit more of that as we go through the presentation. And we have it's not just these couple of GitHub repos either. There's a lot of other test sort of APIs and code that's been put out. There's so many things that we're not able to really touch on, but a lot of other integration tools that are available, examples in different programming languages of how to integrate in Node, in Python, and from Sangoma engineers over the years, and continuous improvement. So it's really a lot of open source work that you can take a look at. So
I'd also like to throw out this bolded thing here. Chris is working to attend more open source conferences in general, such as ClueCon, Camellia World, etc. We'll see which ones he appears at.
yeah, hopefully. I mentioned I'm in Denver, so the Open Source Summit is coming up in June in Denver. So hopefully see a few more faces there as well. But right in the backyard. So definitely going to make it to that one for a whole week, last full week in June. So it's definitely on our list here. How can I support open source projects? Well,
I mean, Nenad usually talks about this. Yeah, you can if you want to.
What's standard? Participating in open source is not just coding, right? That's kind of default. Hey, where do I submit a patch? Patches are welcomed by all. We do not blacklist anyone, right? So if anybody wants to submit a patch, we would love to have it.
The only requirement is we do require the contributor license agreement to be signed.
And the coding standards have to match.
I mean, yes, coding standards as well. It goes through code review, that kind of thing.
But it's all on GitHub. It's all open, so it's not like there's some black room where we kind of go ahead and filter out the patches. This is why we went on GitHub, by the way. So everything's transparent, right? But it's not all about coding. It's about the documentation. It's about being just in the forums. If somebody asks a question, how do I do this in FreePBX? It's not sometimes Sangoma, or a lot of times Sangoma is not there, and just the community members are out there and then helping each other, right? So there's a ability if you speak a language and you're able to help with translation. So there's a lot of ways to participate in the project, and participating in open source definitely has some commercial tie-ins as well, right? You know.
Absolutely. I guess this is where I come in, supporting open source here at Sangoma. We ask that you buy our products. We've spent a lot of time, as you can see, over the past years, building an extensive set of tools that make everything we do better. And we hope that you can come in and support us by purchasing those.
So that's one, but also, by participating in open source, they can also make commercial.
Correct. Yeah. So
commercial relationships with, right?
Absolutely. So as many resellers have seen in the audience, you can obviously take these products to market, but one of the other areas where you can contribute to open source is by developing an ancillary product. We've got a partner directly here in the room with Gray Matter Networks. They've built a hospitality suite and tool set that works very well with FreePBX, and we're hoping to extend that piece of our business. Currently, as we look at it, these guys up here are sort of responsible for coming up with the innovation and all these new things that we can do as a company, but there's a lot of smart people in this audience that want to take products to market themselves as well, and we encourage that. So we're continuously looking to help support individuals that also want to make money with this stuff as well. So I think that contributes quite well to open source.
So last year we asked about Gen AI, which is Nenad's favorite topic at the moment. So I'll pose the question out there. This is audience participation if you desire. Don't feel obligated, but it'd be nice. How have things changed for you in the world of Gen AI when it comes to voice, telecommunications, that kind of stuff?
So are anybody using AI actively in their platforms right now in any way? Who's sick of AI?
That is about the answer I expected. This is just a warning on running AI services. I will have a slight ranty slide after this. Don't worry.
Yeah, prompt exploitations. Well, funny with AI now, it's like, you're a prompt engineer now. So once you have these LLMs and they're talking and you figure out how to actually get voice working with these LLMs in an efficient, cost-effective manner, everything then becomes about prompts, right? It's how you write these prompts is like how this thing is going to behave. So it's a little bit of black art right there, a little magical how it all works together. To try to get like predictive responses out of these LLMs, over, they should behave the same. Like you have an IVR system, it does the same thing every single time. Well, now you throw an LLM in there, well, it sort of does things, every single time. And, prompts can be exploited. That's what we found with our RAG implementation, that we had to put a whole new layer of code just to prevent, prompt exploitation, right? Because the way you kind of come in and ask it things, it'll answer, and even the stuff that it's not supposed to answer, right? So it's great if you have, like, just go to ChatGPT and ask it, like, what's the color of the sky or something like that. It'll answer. And even though it's supposed to just talk about, Sangoma support, it'll answer about anything, right? And you kind of don't want to do that, right? So especially now you're getting more serious. Now let's say it's a medical AI, right? You don't want it to sit there and talk about something completely non-specific or not on topic, right? So how do you wrangle it to actually, without going and just training your own just for that particular, that's a huge amount of work as well. So, so I think some of these things are, these are lessons that we've kind of had to learn, and, working with these LLMs, working with these agents, how do you write good prompts? How do we have enough infrastructure in there to ensure that the topic stays on topic, and it doesn't hallucinate, right? So there's a little, they call LLMs teenagers right now. They're not, they're kind of equivalent to a teenager. It works most of the time, but not very reliable, right? So yeah.
I drew some pretty great, I'd say, toddler art yesterday with my prompts. If you saw that and want to see it, you've got to be very explicit. The nice thing about it, though, is that like Sangoma already doing so much in the audio space. It's makes for a transition to a lot of these services. So you see Scribe and talking about the protections there. So running user submitted data, unsafe strings basically, is what we're dealing with here. And so how do you make those into safe strings? And you can pipe a lot of stuff out and return it back and try to play it to the user, but to take advantage of that extra layer, as Nenad mentioned, is one of the things that we've been working on with Scribe, for example, and that's into a commercial product. And there's a number of other products in Sangoma elsewhere in the company. So there's a lot of understanding and a lot of knowledge being built up internally for moving this forward. I think a fun one that we had yesterday was some AI generated hold music in the afternoon. A number of people have been doing that, making great tracks in matter of minutes, and customizing that to their company needs. So I had a bit of a lament about the status of the hold music. So maybe that's something we could look at maybe as an open source sort of module to take on music on hold. It's been a while, and what that looks like when you feed in some text and information that you want specific for that company or that client. We had a lot of cool ideas with music on hold yesterday afternoon, so it was a fun little hoedown. But from performances by college students, you can get back to the personal, to playing back the weather alerts, to just here's our hilarious joking MSP playback generated by an AI. So that's just one of the many areas that we could turn that into a FreePBX module, or if you want to contribute those kinds of things. So that's a place where we can look to expand, I think. And the conversational IVR is great. I just hadn't thought about the music on hold. So it's amazing how many areas we can have and incorporate into FreePBX and Asterisk. So
I'll also do a plug for Nenad. He has a presentation tomorrow about AI at Sangoma. So if that's something that interests you, please attend. He'll have interesting thoughts, I'm sure. And now we get to my slight ranty slide. Yes, I brought this up in our department meeting. I was like, hey guys, can I do this? And they're like, yeah. So here we go. A warning about AI for configuration and help. I'm going to read this out. This is from a friend of mine, Alex Balashoff. As we all know, AI can hallucinate, reach improper conclusions about your intent, or generate good working configuration that just isn't applicable to your use case or is suboptimal. Keep this in mind when using it to facilitate your work, and in sensitive situations, do not assume the result can be safely used. The reason I bring this up is I'm seeing a trend on the forums of people using AI to either generate their Asterisk configuration, they're using it to write ARI applications. In one case, I saw an individual who used it to write an ARI application to itself connect to conversational AI. And the results are mixed at best. So you cannot assume the result is what you intended it to do. A best practice, I ask, is that when using it on community forums, disclose it. So if you're using it to formulate your question, state it as such, that you did.
I'll add in, I made mention on a previous slide about the code of conduct and the forums for FreePBX. That was basically a copy of the Asterisk code of conduct, which was also updated to include disclosure requirements on if you are generating responses using an LLM, then you need to make it clear that that's the case. And we want to try to keep that out of. This is similar to a number of other online forums have moved in this direction. So that was one of our earlier changes, and a lot of those changes in the FreePBX code of conduct were basically a copy pasta from the Asterisk code of conduct, which was in turn a copy pasta from the Discourse forum default code of conduct, just adding a few things that were specific, including this disclosure.
Aren't we adding our AI moderator to our Discourse anyways?
That'd be great. We could use a little help there, some days. We'll definitely look to, we want to keep, there's a lot of great answers and a lot of great humans offering answers to questions. And so the courtesy of using, your own words to put the question forward. And if you do go ahead and you want to clear up the language, make sure that it sounds polite, that understandable, right? Just let us know and make a plug for it so that we can keep that in mind when people are replying.
When using it for asking questions, I've seen it actually just invent steps that you didn't actually take to try to solve the problem, which just makes answering and supporting people just difficult. So best avoid it if you can, please. But in general, thank you everyone for coming to the opening panel. We have tons of great presentations lined up. Of course, we hope you enjoy them. I've plugged tons. There'll be more. Next up, as I said, will be Mike talking about conversational AI, Asterisk, cool stuff. If you see us around, don't hesitate to strike up a conversation, ask questions. I will try to answer for myself. If I can't, I can't, sorry. And then I may direct you to someone else. As well, the Asterisk update, plugging that again, will be at the end of AstriCon tomorrow, and then Chris and Mike have a free PBX talk about 16 to 17, which is also tomorrow. But overall, thank you. Do you guys want to add some stuff?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I guess, do we have time for Q&A? Or
yep, we
5
do
minutes?
we do have time for questions. We've got 5 minutes or so.
I can run around with the mic here real quick.
Yes, please.
All right.
Hi. Any future roadmap to make FreePBX multi-tenant?
Ooh, no.
No, and you wouldn't be the first person that's asked that.
Okay.
No
I
current
think
plans.
I think a simple one is like a no, right? I mean, and not right now. No, I mean it's interesting. It'd be if anybody else thinks that, you know, it'd be good to know.
Because the problem I face is basically to maintain the physical resources is going to be a big problem if I don't have a multi-tenancy. But if I do, the other side of the coin is going to be very easy for us. So.
Yeah, one thing that we are going to do is we have a NetOps application. That's something that we've launched on the other side of the business, which is really our monitoring inventory platform. And FreePBX is going to go in there from the monitoring management point of perspective. So you are going to be able to simplify FreePBX management from a cloud perspective. So we do want to do almost like think of it as an orchestrator for FreePBX. So we're going to go down that way. Now, I mean, allowing FreePBX to be multi-tenant so you can just concentrate more. You have a 5-user account, right? You know, throwing a whole FreePBX ISO on it is a bit of an overkill. I know. Yep, that's
I'll also admit we suffer that problem too because we have PBExact Cloud. So we feel the pain of not multi-tenant as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what's it? I'm sorry. Here you go.
That's Drive and Orchestrator because you're in the same boat.
Sorry, one more time. Yeah, that's driving. Sorry.
Any other questions?
Sorry, sorry, I didn't hear the question. That's why.
You talked about you have a need to implement an orchestrator because you are in the same position with FreePBX Cloud.
It's a tangential to multi-tenant. It's not direct reason. The reason is more to make our have management of FreePBX easier. You
Something
know,
that could push out updates or
correct. Push updates, being able to monitor and see all the state all from one place. I know a lot of the partners already have their own, like whether it's Nagios or Zabbix, whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
But this is more, you know, something that it's going to be standardized and you know, part of our offering.
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions on the initial presentation? Couple minutes left. There's a lot more to see and hear the next couple of days. So, yep.
I walked in when you were discussing the new FreePBX 17 ISO. You're not going back to only allowing the ISO to be used. The script will be continue to be available in the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Remember that I was against the ISO, but you know they convinced me to have the ISO. So ISO, in my opinion, it's all about the script. It's not about the ISO, right? But for people that want ISO, you know, you're welcome.
You know, FreePBX philosophy, right? Freedom to choose. So if you choose that, go with it.
Yeah, I have a little bit more to say on that tomorrow as well.
You do.
But go into some more details on it. So yeah, I mean, it's really just helping you speed up the Debian installation. There's a lot of cute questions in there and help with partitioning, and then rebooting itself and running the script for you. So a little bit more hands-off even than the Sangoma OS 7 was in the new ISO.
I think somebody said to us like, well, you know, I don't want to deal with, you know, SSH logging into a VM, you know, that goes kind of backwards, right? So, yeah. So this is where the ISO comes in. Yeah.
He wants to keep the script.
There you go.
Well, there'll be a VNC connection, so that's close on the cloud provider. So you'll be able to see it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'd be great to share. Yeah. Anybody else? Q&A.
I have one question since we're all here, and who would be interested in a new FreePBX UI, like a easier, more user-friendly UI? Like now, UI is very functional, meaning like there's a lot of stuff there, but there's no kind of a theme to it from the point of view of how you install it, how do you set it up. You know, there's a wizard, but is, you know, just an appetite for like a brand new UI that would be more modern, better.
Very good.
Okay, so yeah, that's right. Maybe the answer is no. Don't bother spending time there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We've got about a minute.
Thank you all.
Maybe
Thank you
or
so
two.
much.
Our next presentation will start in just a couple minutes here about some more AI work.